My father froze at the airport when a man in a navy blue suit handed him a thick envelope with my name printed on the front. Derek, my brother, stood beside him, pale, pretending nothing was happening. 4 days earlier, they had laughed as I walked out of my mother's dining room, right after my brother said, "You're not part of this family. Don't show up." I didn't shout. I just left. And now there we were, watching their world unravel exactly the same way they made mine fall apart. Before I tell you what really happened that night, hit like and comment where you're listening from. Have you ever had to draw a line with your own family and refuse to erase it later? I remember that Sunday like it was supposed to mean something. My mother called it family dinner, like she always did, as if the word alone could fix the cracks. I spent half the afternoon in my apartment kitchen layering lasagna, brushing garlic butter over bread, choosing a bottle of Merlot I could barely afford. It wasn't about the food. It was my peace offering, my proof that I still cared enough to show up. Their house smelled like cinnamon candles and old photographs, too sweet, too staged. The laughter I heard from the doorway died the moment I walked in. My father looked up from his phone and gave a single nod. My mother smiled the way she smiled at polite neighbors. Derek, my brother, slouched in his chair, bragging about a new business, the same one I had secretly bailed out 3 times before. I set the dishes on the table, steam fogging the plastic runner, and waited for someone to make room. No one did. Dinner went on as usual, chaotic, loud, a performance with no audience for me. They talked about the next family reunion in the spring, tossing around dates and hotel names as if I weren't sitting right there. I just listened, nodding where it was expected, my heart beating harder than it should. I didn't want an invitation. I just wanted acknowledgement. When the chatter paused for a second, I smiled and said, as calmly as I could, "Just let me know when it'll be, so I can book early this time." The words hung in the air too long before falling flat. My mother's fork scraped the plate. Derek didn't look up. My father cleared his throat and asked if anyone wanted more bread. I should have been used to it by now, the way they erased me in plain sight. But something about that moment made the air thinner, sharper. Maybe it was the effort behind my calm voice, or the way my mother avoided my eyes. Maybe I was finally old enough to recognize cruelty when it dressed as good manners. I filled my wineglass and leaned back, watching the scene as if I didn't belong to it. The golden son and his audience, the mother keeping peace with silence, the father controlling tone like a currency. I told myself to breathe, not to ruin another Sunday. But part of me already knew peace that depends on silence isn't peace. It's training for surrender. That was the last Sunday I tried to earn a seat at their table. The pause after my question felt endless. Then Derek finally looked at me, leaning back with that half smile of arrogance that hurts without needing a hand. "You're not part of this family," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't show up." No one gasped. No one told him to stop. The room didn't explode. It collapsed. My mother lifted her napkin to her lips, trying to hide her smile. My father slapped the table and laughed like he'd just heard the joke of the week. The sound filled the air. Metallic. Cruel. The whole table laughed. I remember thinking how strange it was that a sound could hurt more than words. I looked at the lasagna I'd made myself, the cheese bubbling like it belonged to someone else. Felt the heat rise up my neck, not anger, but shame, the kind that comes when you realize they rehearsed this scene without telling you. I didn't say a word. I set my glass down, folded my napkin, and pushed the chair back slowly, just enough to make them uncomfortable. Derek smirked. Come on, Jenny. Can't take a joke. I met his eyes for the first time that night. Did you mean what you said? I asked quietly. He didn't deny it. No one did. I grabbed my coat. My mother's voice followed me, thin, polite, useless. Jenny, stay, it's just dinner. No, I said, slipping on my coat. It's a message. I got it. Outside, the cold air burned my eyes. Behind me, the laughter started again, muffled by the door as if they couldn't stand a single minute of silence. I stood on the porch for a few seconds, breathing in the cold until my chest stopped shaking. Then I walked to my car, the untouched lasagna still warm in my hands. There's a kind of silence that doesn't ask for explanation. It announces the end. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry on the way home. I just drove through dark streets, headlights cutting the fog, thinking one sentence over and over like a heartbeat. This is the last time I try to belong to a place that laughs when I bleed. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds, turning dust into snow. My phone lay face down on the counter. No calls, no texts, no apologies. The silence was louder than any word. I made coffee, sat by the window, and tried to believe that peace felt like this, empty but calm. But peace born from escape isn't peace. It's waiting for the next hit. By the second day, the calm started to crack. I looked at my phone once, then again. Nothing. Maybe they hadn't noticed my absence, or maybe they had, and that was the point. By the third night, I left my phone in another room and told myself I didn't care anymore. On the fourth day, the phone finally buzzed. A message from Derek. Hey, weird question. Did the bank block the transfer? The loan payment didn't go through? No greeting, no apology, no mention of dinner, just business, straight to the wallet. I read it twice, then typed 4 words that had waited years to exist. Me, not family, not funding. Then I blocked his number. I thought my hands would shake. They didn't. A strange calm spread through me, the kind that comes before a storm. Only this time, the storm wasn't mine to bear. An hour later, another message. This time, from my father. I didn't open it. I let the phone buzz until it stopped. The only sound left was the hum of the refrigerator, steady, indifferent. That night, I sat on the floor surrounded by bank statements, receipts, proof, years of emergencies, always with Derek's name. The numbers blurred together. 200 here, 500 there, 1,000. When his business almost collapsed, my stomach turned. The pattern was clear. My generosity had become both their life jacket and their weapon. I ran a yellow highlighter over each transaction, watching the paper glow under the lamp. Each mark was proof of how much my kindness had cost my sanity. When I finished, I stacked the pages and whispered, "It's over." Outside, the rain started tapping the window. For the first time, it didn't sound lonely. The next day, the phone stayed silent, no laughter, no Derek. But I knew how this worked. Those who feed on you panic when you stop bleeding. By late afternoon, someone knocked. Then again, harder. Through the peephole, I saw my father's shoulders and Derek's anxious pacing, the rhythm of their knocks, authoritative, entitled. I held my teacup with both hands and stood still in the middle of the room. They knocked until the frames on the wall rattled. I didn't answer, just listened until the sound faded, replaced by the growl of their SUV driving away. That's when I understood silence is a mirror. It shows who people really are when they can't use you anymore. When night fell, I looked at the pile of papers on the table and smiled, not with happiness, but with the quiet knowing that something irreversible had begun. 4 days ago, I left their house with nothing. That night, I had something better, boundaries that can't be refunded. 3 days later, the envelope showed up at my door, white, my name written in my father's careful handwriting. Inside, $400 in 20s. No note, just cash, guilt payment, silence fee. I stared at it for a long time, then slid it under the table until sunset. When the light turned orange, I picked it up and dropped it in the trash. The sound of bills hitting plastic was cleaner than any apology. An hour later, the phone rang. My father's name on the screen. I answered on the 4th ring. "Why?" I asked before he could speak. He sighed. That rehearsed sigh people take before justifying cruelty. The loan payment failed. It's chaos. Fees, suppliers. We just needed a few days. It's not like we use you, Jenny. Don't take it personally. I laughed. Short, sharp. That's the problem. You never did. He said my name again, softer, as if that could fix anything. I hung up. After that call, I stopped pretending it was about money. It was about ownership. They built a world where my worth depended on what I gave. Now they were watching it crumble. That night, I opened my banking app. Every transfer, every favor. $20,000 in 2 years. I printed everything, then highlighted every line tied to Derek. When I was done, the stack glowed yellow, the pattern undeniable. In the morning, I slipped everything into a brown envelope and wrote on the front, "This is me. Ask yourselves who you've been." I dropped it in the mailbox. No tracking. If it got lost, that would mean the message had already arrived. By afternoon, the calls doubled. My mother left shaky, rehearsed voicemails. "Things got out of hand, sweetheart. Come for lunch." "Let's talk." Another one at midnight. "Family gets through things, Jenny. Derek's under a lot of pressure. 4 times the word family in 1 minute, like a spell. On the 5th day, an email came. Subject, repayment plan. A colorful spreadsheet, ridiculous. Derek listed amounts he might start paying next year. At the bottom, "We'll get past this. We're family, right?" I stared at the word family until it blurred. That's when the phone rang. Unknown number. "Mrs. William, this is Thomas Reed from Greenlight Legal. We're confirming your co-signature on a $10,000 loan for Derek William." My pulse stopped. "Excuse me. It appears your signature is on the document. We're verifying before processing." I never signed anything. "There are inconsistencies. You won't be held responsible. We'll follow up." When the call ended, I stood there staring into nothing. My hands shaking, not from fear, but from clarity. They hadn't just taken my money. They'd taken my name. I called a lawyer I knew from work, Mrs. Parson. Her voice was steady. "This isn't a misunderstanding, Jenny. It's identity fraud. Stay calm. Document everything. We'll handle it quietly." The word quietly made sense. People like them survive on chaos. Silence is how you win. So I documented everything, messages, receipts, recordings. I saved it all in a folder titled Paper Cuts, Small Wounds that finally bled the truth. The next morning, my lawyer sent a court notice to Derek's business address. 2 hours later, I got an email from him. "You think you're better than us now? You'll regret it." I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to my grandmother's house, the only place that ever felt safe. She opened the door before I could knock. "Took you long enough," she said. She didn't even need to ask what happened. When I told her everything, the dinner, the forgery, the threats, she didn't blink. "They'll always take you for granted as long as you stay on the floor," she said, pouring tea. "Stand up, and they'll call you too tall like it's an insult." Outside, it started raining again. "What do I do?" I asked. "You already did," she replied. 2 weeks later, my father and Derek were standing in the middle of the airport when a man in a navy blue suit handed them a thick envelope with my name. Court citation, official and final. I wasn't there to see it, but Mrs. Parson texted me, "It's done. They've been served." I looked at the screen, feeling neither victory nor guilt, just the relief of finally turning on the light in a dark room. For the first time, I owed nothing to anyone. When the dust settled, silence didn't feel heavy. It felt deserved. The legal mess resolved exactly as it should. Derek's fraudulent loan was voided, his accounts frozen. My father tried to argue, but every lie had his signature on it. Mrs. Parson handled everything with surgical calm. She didn't celebrate, and neither did I. Justice doesn't need applause. It just needs to work. I never checked on them after that. Didn't have to. News traveled through whispers. Derek's business collapsed. My father's credit ruined. My mother avoiding neighbors who no longer bought the misunderstood family act. One night, my mother called. I almost didn't answer, but something in me, the memory of her hands braiding my hair, made me pick up. Her voice was soft, stripped of performance. "I'm sorry, Jenny, for everything, for not protecting you, for letting them use you." I didn't cry. When she asked if I'd come to the family reunion, I said, "No, Mom, I can forgive you from here." She didn't insist. She only whispered, "I love you," and hung up. That night, I sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket that smelled like rain. City lights blinked below, steady, indifferent. I looked at the envelope of receipts on the table, the proof of everything, and tucked it in a drawer. Some truths don't need revisiting. They just need to exist. I made tea, turned off my phone, and breathed. For the first time in years, peace didn't feel like something I had to buy. It felt like something I'd built, with silence, boundaries, and the courage to stop bleeding for people who never noticed the wound. I used to think peace meant everyone getting along. Now I know it means walking away and still wishing them well. The family reunion happened without me. The table was perfect, except for one empty chair right in the middle. That space said everything I never had to. If you've ever had to choose yourself over people who only knew how to take from you, I hope this reminds you. Silence isn't weakness, it's recovery. Thank you for listening to my story. Comment where you're watching from, and tell me if you've ever had to draw a boundary with family. Your stories keep this space honest. And don't forget to subscribe. There are more truths where this one came from.